When you begin to understand how any one part of the body works, it's a real beauty. And it's even more beautiful when you can put those parts together and make it all work as a human being, as a real human being, a thinking person.
Arthur Clifton Guyton was born in Oxford, Mississippi on September 8, 1919, to Dr. and Mrs. Billy S. Guyton. His father, an eye, ear, nose, and throat specialist, was also dean of the 2-year medical school on the Oxford campus.
Arthur grew up in Oxford, and according to his own autobiography, he was quite reckless and sped down all the Oxford streets on his bicycle. And he also encountered William Faulkner, whose property adjoined the Guyton property, and after Dr. Guyton got polio, he sold William Faulkner the boat that he had made.
Ruth Alice Weigel was born in New Haven, Connecticut on June 5, 1922. Her father, Luther Allen Weigel, was dean of Yale University Divinity School.
She had a certainly interesting childhood, and then being near the Yale campus and meeting all the divinity students that came around.
I remember her talking once about playing tennis on the tennis courts of Yale and slipping into one of her father's classrooms to hear him lecture.
In 1942, during his final year of Harvard Medical School, Arthur dated a Wellesley College student named Pepper. Ruth was an undergraduate biblical history major, and as fortune would have it, Pepper was her roommate.
I don't know Pepper's real name. My dad would arrive to pick her up, and so sometimes she would send my mom down to entertain my dad while she would finish getting ready. I think my dad and Pepper were planning to marry, but Pepper went back to Birmingham.
Arthur finished medical school and began a surgical internship at Massachusetts General Hospital in January of 1943. Ruth had graduated from Wellesley and was teaching at Pine Manor Junior College in Boston. They met again.
There was a formal coming up at Pine Manor Junior College that she needed an escort for because she was a chaperone. So she asked him, would he escort her? And she bought a flame coral colored evening dress. It's a beautiful gown. At the end of the day, he kissed her goodnight. She said, "Oh, Arthur, what are we going to do?" And he said, "Well, we're going to get married."
They were married on June 12, 1943.
Arthur was soon called away from his new bride and surgical residency by World War II. He served in the Navy. After the war, he returned to Massachusetts General to complete his residency. But within a year, his right leg and shoulder were paralyzed by polio.
I think that had a big impact on his interest in physiology and the science that I don't think that this would have happened had he not gotten polio. He would have been a great surgeon. But it's doubtful that he would have focused all of his energies on science like he did, physiology like he did.
Dr. Guyton recovered some of his strength in Warm Springs, Georgia, where he developed tools to help others affected by paralysis. Both these inventions included leg braces and an electric wheelchair with a joystick control, for which he received a presidential citation. As his recovery was coming to a close, the Guytons decided it was time to go home to Oxford.
In 1948, he became chairman of physiology on the Oxford campus. Then in 1955, when the medical center opened, he and Ruth moved their family to Jackson.
He now had the opportunity to help design a medical center and his own research program. His research redefined our understanding of the cardiovascular system. And in an effort to be the best educator possible, Dr. Guyton literally wrote the book on human physiology. Exemplified by his legacy, Dr. Guyton's driving passion was teaching.
And one thing that I remember as a student, that he had an open door policy. You didn't have to make an appointment to see Dr. Guyton, and he always greeted you with a big smile.
And set it there, and leave it there, and don't move it, and don't touch a thing. After about
when you're in the classroom, you're in awe. But here's Dr. Guyton, who wrote the textbook of physiology, lecturing. Back then, he used the overhead projector.
He would use at the most for a 1-hour lecture, maybe 10 slides. He liked to spend a lot of time talking about the concepts, the big picture, not the details.
He would draw figures and highlight the main points. And again, his lectures was like his textbook.
It's written in a way that the students can understand. It's not written for professional physiologists, it's written for students.
He tells a story, and when you finish reading his book, you have a pretty good idea of what that story is about.
While Dr. Guyton was training the next generation of medical doctors and researchers, Ruth Guyton was also training the next generation of doctors. The Guytons' 10 children would follow their parents' examples in personal and academic excellence and become doctors. Reared in a house of concrete designed by their ingenious father and built in part by their own hands, the Guyton children learned as much from their mother's example. An hour of reading to her children every night, holding numerous volunteer positions ranging from PTA to UMMC's Women's Committee.
I think Ruth was an exceptionally strong woman.
Thought that her role was to support Dr. Guyton and to raise the children and to run the household, and she did so with great ease, seemingly.
She had human compassion and devotion to her family, but to everyone.
Everybody thinks that Ruth only had 10 children. I really call the UMMC the 11th child.
She loved children. And so every faculty member had a new baby. She would always, bring a gift, write a note. Just a wonderful lady.
She could have been the best president of the United States we've ever had, ever, had she chosen that field, because she was brilliant and she was energetic, but she loved that family, and that was her commitment.
I don't think she would have had it any other way.
Like her husband, Ruth was an avid writer. Ruth expressed her love of language and interest by writing memoirs, essays, and poetry.
Warm wind and gentle weather, blade and bough together, burst into tender green, till all the scene between, in color, sound, and scent, renews the testament, the miracle of spring. Twirl to the melody, time's ticking fast. The others are grown now, babyhood past. Heaven forbid the things I did. Couldn't I know babies go? Gregory, Paul, sweet and small, don't go to sleep. The house will keep.
Dear Ruthie, even though you know approximately what I am doing every minute of the day, I expect you would like an occasional report. I have made a few discoveries since you left, especially about how to handle the water from the washing machine when it runs over on the floor. I figured the logical way to get rid of the water is to apply a very simple physical principle and just let it evaporate. I am glad I thought about this in time because it certainly saved me many hours of effort. Also, I found out how to handle the ants. If you just don't bother them, they lead their lives in perfect happiness, and furthermore, the ants keep the kitchen very clean. I hope that all of you do not freeze quite completely in the frigid waters of Lake Sunapee. Maybe you can get in a little skiing before you leave. Love, Arthur.
One of the things that Dr. Guyton and Ruth Guyton did as a couple outside the medical center was they participated in a discussion group.
You would normally ask someone to come and make a presentation about some topic, either a book they had written or something they had done, and then you would have a general discussion about what they had talked about.
The programs were fascinating, and I cannot really think of any subject that might not have been covered.
Given his mind and capacity to remember everything that he'd ever heard. He could talk on lots of topics.
I don't think there was anything the man did not know.
Very matter of fact from the doctor's side, because he was very matter of fact.
My mom was the only one who could call him on things. When he would make a pronouncement that may or may not be right, other people wouldn't dare to challenge him, but my mom would. And she'd say, "Arthur, you know that's not true."
She had a very constant personality, as did the doctor, for that matter.
Arthur and Ruth shared a love of language and exploring ideas until their deaths. The dedication to their scholarly pursuits, their family, and to each other was steeled by war, polio, time spent apart, even by political differences. But the power of their love produced scientific breakthroughs, exceptional children, and worldwide acclaim for Mississippi.
Even if you just peripherally knew them, they just presented lives of such excellence and lives that were devoted to ideas and imagination, not lives devoted to status or material possessions. It was just a way of living honestly and intellectually. They were inspiring.